All right, well, welcome back to part two of the tape deck saga with the Aiwa WX-220 here. Let's see. I finally got the belts in the mail. I ordered them from Thacker. You can look that up, Thakker. And here is what they came in, and then just, a little generic bag there with a handwritten note of what they were. Two main motor belts, one for each deck, and thankfully they also included the two belts for the counter mechanism that attaches to the deck 2 on this guy over here. Also, we've got the rest of the tools here that we're going to get into for tuning up the tape deck. First tool, obviously, is a tape head demagnetizer. We'll go into that. Got some 99% alcohol here. Definitely better than the low purity stuff, and the Ron regrip that I discussed. So there's that. Now, before I ran out of space, we were talking about some of the reasons why a deck might be worth being restored, and we covered that this deck, it's got nice four track heads on it. Four track heads, I should say. It is not a 3-head deck, unfortunately, so there's no real-time monitoring of the recording that you're doing. Off-tape monitoring, I should say. So a 3-head deck actually allows you to listen to the tape as it's being recorded via the third head. But this has a bunch of other features that we covered, so we're going to restore it. Aiwas are a pain in the butt. The belts like to turn to mush, and by mush I mean tar. One of the things we had to do is use the 99% alcohol along with lots and lots of Q-tips and towels to get the tar off of. The two main things that you have to get it off of are the motor and the main flywheel here. I can't really see it here. Let's see if I can reposition the camera a little bit here. Pardon me while I bang it around. Okay. So the main flywheel here, the motor goes right here. Okay, I removed it. I took out two of the screws holding it and slid it out of the rubber mounts on this side, so it's just here. Or I guess one of the screws holding it. That one there's a dummy hole. But anyway, and the reason for that is cleaning off all the rubber gook out of the grooves. Unfortunately, the pulley on this motor has some very fine crevices in the corner, and even now there's some black gook in there from that. When I say these belts turn to tar, man, I'm not exaggerating. They turn to tar. So I got a little container here to pour out a little alcohol in, and we'll use a swab to kind of. Now, fortunately, this stuff dissolves really well with alcohol, and you can see, woof. But it does have these fine crevices that you're going to want to get every last bit of this off, because if any of this stuff is left, it'll get on your new belts. It won't be good for your new belts, and not only will it not be good for your new belts, it will also likely create some weird, perhaps playback speed instability from the belt sticking sometimes, or as it goes around. I could see it making an issue. So anyway, we're going to completely get rid of all of that. I probably should have done that before I turned the camera on, so that we can get straight to actually putting the belts on. But we're close enough. I'll just keep going at it here with the toothpick, kind of. Man, this stuff is just so nasty. Just like tar. hard to believe that it was once a belt. And it's not like some of the, it's not like this stuff came off the belt. Like some of the gunk got produced by the belt or oozed out of the belt. The belt literally turned into this stuff. Just jelly. Yeah. And I keep cleaning and it keeps coming off. Unfortunately, it looks like there's a little bit of corrosion there caused by where the belt was against this brass pulley, and apparently something in that nasty rubber compound was slightly reactive against brass, and it kind of left a funky green spot. It doesn't feel rough, and I kind of I thought, oh no, the pulley's ruined. It's got a spot in it now. You could always sand it down gently. You really don't want to alter the diameter of that pulley at all, and you certainly don't want a flat spot in it. But you don't want a high spot either, or anything rough that will kind of cause the new belt to get worn out faster than it might otherwise. You're almost there. There's only a few spots of this gunk left. So, that's the thing. If it's an Aiwa deck and the belts are like this, and it's an auto reverse deck, man, I wouldn't bother. I really wouldn't. Auto reverse is a cool feature, but most of the time it's with a two-track head. Excuse me, I gotta stop saying that. Oh wow, there's a lot more over here. So it's funny though, because if you look at the way a typical Walkman or portable cassette player that has auto reverse is set up, they pretty much all have the 4-track head, because you can't get that little head flipping spinny mechanism inside a Walkman very easily. Oh, put that off. I should have got more toothpicks. No, I got a few more here. So, in any event, I think we've pretty much got all of it removed from anywhere where the new belt can actually touch. There's just some that won't come out, that is just way down in that crack. But the new belt isn't going to touch that crack. Oh, there's still some against the side of this. Yeah. Dip it in alcohol, and look at that. More just keeps coming off. It really does underscore what a pain these are to clean. With these stupid old Aiwa belts that turn to mush. Alright, so the main difficulty in replacing the belts, aside from cleaning it, is how to get the belt on the pulley, right? Because you got all this mechanism around it, and the motor, which, whoopsie, trying to do that, the motor is mounted up there, right? So you got to take the motor off first and kind of set it aside. And there are 1, 2, 3, and 4 screws that kind of hold on this back bracket here. And you should note, this is kind of a fragile thing, and it's kind of set at the factory that you don't want to really mess with it. It's this little plastic set screw here, which is kind of glued into a, screwed to a position and then glued, is actually on the other side of it. That's a pivot seat for this flywheel. And the precise and frictionless spinning of this wheel is very dependent on the way this screw is set. Too loose and it'll wobble around, too tight and there'll be too much friction. You really want to leave that where it's set. And so you really don't want to do anything like you think you're creative and you'll, oh, I'll just take off a couple screws and I'll just bend the bracket back and put the belt on, then bend the thing back and then tighten it back down. Yeah, don't do something like that. That will it'll damn near ruin it. I mean, if you can't get that thing precisely straightened back out, you'll be in trouble. So, without further ado, we're gonna start taking these off. Let me get to deck B. I'll show you how to actually get this deck in and out. I think we'll probably be able to show. This one here has a little washer on it, it would appear. Okay, so these are different size screws, so we're going to want to remember where they go. This one's pretty easy to remember because it can't really go that far, and that's a nice long one there. So I'll lay them out in the way that I lay them out in order to remember. Let me just peek the focus here, make sure there we go. Got a manual focus lens here. Keeps the camera from hunting if you do it that way. And again, you do have to kind of flip this thing around after taking it out, and you kind of have to tug on the wires a little bit. You got to really kind of just be gentle and careful and try not to break off any wires or tug on anything too hard. And I would definitely recommend knowing how to solder if you do wind up breaking a wire, because it does happen. Okay, yeah, and as you can see, that little seat there, and then there's a little greased ball bearing in the center of that flywheel. So this part here is easy. You just throw the belt on there. We'll worry about getting it up on the flywheel later. It's obviously not going to stay there because we don't have the motor yet to put it around. So we'll just put this back on. And there, it clicks. It's nice. It's got little seats there. You'll feel when it's in. It'll just kind of lock right in there. And then let's do the long screw first. I like to go around with just go kind of finger tight with just the skinny part of the screwdriver bit. And the reason I like to do that is because we're screwing into plastic. Oopsie, I bonked the camera. And the reason you want to, not use a power screwdriver for this, not use a big handled screwdriver for this work here, is because you want to, when you put the screw in, you want to find the groove that's already cut into the plastic. And the reason you want to do that is because you don't want to split this little plastic post. And you do that by putting the screw in and backing it out, gently unscrewing it until you feel it kind of click. And that lets you know that you're at the start of the thread. And when you go in, you're using the existing thread. And frankly, with just the bit, it's going to take a lot of torque to cut a new thread with it. So you'll feel it if you're screwing it up and cross-threading it and running the risk of splitting the thing. I definitely recommend being careful not to cut new threads into plastic when you take these metal screws out of plastic studs. So now that I know I got them in there incorrectly, I'm just going to go back and just give it that little final quarter turn with the, let's see, putting a little too much weight on it, so I got to support it. Okay, so we got the belt on, at least in. We got the belt in, I should say. Now we got to get the belt on, which means putting the motor back in place. And I'm just going to give it one last inspection for gook. I mean, it's just, man. And that little discolored spot there, I say it's fine. Now, that stuff coming off is actually, apparently it's shaved in my fingernails. That edge is so cleanly cut, it's just, when I glance by it, it files my nails. There's just the tiniest little bit of tar on the edge of that pulley. I'm going to give it one more try to get that off. If it doesn't come off with, oh, it is coming off with alcohol. it seems to be a lot harder to get off this brass than it is off of everything else. All the other surfaces you have to clean it off, the flywheel and sometimes the chassis underneath. That you just get a wet towel with that alcohol, it comes right off. After, of course, you scrape what you can off with a blade or something. All right, good enough. So, and I got the flywheel completely clean. Of course, it was a lot easier to clean. So we're gonna prop the deck up a little bit and rest it, and make sure that you're not dinking transistors and caps and stuff down there on the board when you juxtapose the parts around like this. So we're just gonna pop the thing back in here. Let's see. I need to maybe get a better camera angle so you can see what I'm doing. Lower the camera a little bit. Pardon me while we rejigger here. Big clunky tripod in my way. But those of you who have seen my handheld phone videos where I've got the phone in one hand, a beer in the other hand, and the screwdriver in the other hand. Yes, I have three hands. Okay, crank it up just a little higher. There we go. All right. So, the motor is on 3 rubber shock-mounted studs. If you take out the screw for the top one, you can see these are forks, so you can pop it off. So installation is reversive removal. So we're just gonna slide it back onto those 2 studs there. And when that's in place, again, always be careful. That was just a metal eject mechanism there, kind of catching on something, but do have basic electronic repair skills in case you snap a wire. It's very handy. And we'll put that little guy back in there. Be nice and tight. And now we just got to hook the belt over the pulley. And that's that. Okay, so we got the belt over the motor. This is the fun part where you try to get it over both pulleys, right? And the hardest part is just getting to it. But if you find where the slack in the wire is and just kind of patiently rotate the thing, sometimes you can get it just like that. It's crooked, but we turn the wheel a few times. Oh, it came right off, didn't it? Usually it goes right on rather than coming off. There we go. And there it is. It looks like it's found its center. And belt is on. Okay, so that leaves us with the what else's on this, right? You only get the belts in the kit. You don't get this pulley rubber here. You don't get the pulley rubber that's mounted to the capstan, which is on the other side. You can't hardly even see it, but there's a rubber similar to the pinch roller, but it's right here, and that transfers the power from this idler, transfers the power from the capstan. So the motor directly powers the capstan, and this idler will then power the take-up here. But it transfers from the capstan through this idler to the take-up. So this has to be good and have good friction. And what do we do if it doesn't? Well, these are in pretty good shape, as I said in the first one. But raw and regrip. This stuff right here, I can't speak highly enough about this stuff for rubber products. Has all sorts of uses, but the best one is kind of rejuvenating the stuff like this. A little of it goes a long way. I've had this bottle forever, and it's still like 3/4 full. Here's another. Well, actually, no, I don't, because I can just dip a Q-tip directly in here. Brownish looking stuff. Now, if I can sometimes these little guys right here are just belts that go over pulleys, and you can take them off and they'll just kind of pop off, and then you can soak them and really clean them in the regrip. You can also break the pulley and or tear or nick this guy trying to take it off and or get it back on. So if it doesn't look like it's going to come off really easy, and this pulley here has kind of a high wall on it, so I'm going to have to really stretch that belt to get it off. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave it in place, and I'm going to just apply the regrip around and with a cleaning motion, and you can see that right away that the tip is already turning darker. I mean, the stuff's brown to begin with, but the tip is quickly turning black. And what this stuff is very good at is it's very good at removing the outer layer of the rubber surface that has kind of hardened and chalked up and become burnished and smooth, and it lets you get at the softer rubber underneath. And not only that, but some of the paraffins and stuff in the regrip actually recondition the rubber a little bit. They soak in and they kind of help it stay soft and bring a little softness back even. This is definitely my go-to stuff for cleaning rubber parts that I'm not able to replace. So we're going to go all the way around. And the idea here is sort of like cleaning, in the sense that at some point you'll notice, I'm going to switch to a new Q-tip here in a second as I go around, and I'm gently kind of advancing the wheel and then holding it in place, so that as I swipe, I'm actually scraping against the rubber, trying to take off that outer layer. I'll start with a new one here and give it a rub. And see, it's coming off much cleaner now. And not only that, but it's starting to really grip. It's starting to really grip the Q-tip and kind of shred it apart as I do this. One thing about cleaning with Q-tips is they do generate a lot of lint. Whenever you clean something in there, it's kind of intricate. When you're done, you're really going to have to give it an inspection to make sure some lint didn't get hung up around something or wrapped around a spindle or stuff like that. You can get some nice lintless cleaners, like stuff they use for cameras. They are a good bit more expensive, but you know, if you're in a commercial setting, you can afford that, right? Just get your boss to pay for it. Okay, so it's still coming off kind of grungy. I'll give it one more pass. Okay, that's feeling pretty good. Now, as I said here at the whoopsie, this guy does pop out. You can pop it out, as I just did. I got knocked out of track there. It's back in the track. Okay, so yeah, and again, this idler gets its power from the capstan. That's going to be the same situation though, and that's definitely not replaceable. That's like, that piece of rubber is like molded around the capstan. I don't know that you could replace that. It's like the whole capstan assembly probably. And where would you order that, right? You won't. Beware the unreplaceable parts. You can always do the belts, man, but there's other parts too. Oh, speaking of belts, I just knocked the belt off trying to advance it by hand. So I'll just try to do one thing at a time now. I'll just go ahead and paint that guy with the regrip. Now the regrip is pretty, it's a little bit greasy, I would say. I mean, it's not oily, but it's a little greasy. You can definitely do pinch rollers with it. But if you do your pinch roller with it, you're going to be letting it dry for a while. Well, it looks like I just keep knocking that roller out of place. So anyway, I'll just go around in there, and man, this Q-tip's getting shredded. I'm going to have to really make sure I don't leave any lint behind in here. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good. That seems to be definitely some lint. Sharp metal edge there that was collecting it. time. Alright, this guy does not need any regrip. That's a smooth plastic surface. It is meant to be smooth plastic surface. There's meant to be some slip here. That's what compensates for the different ratios of take-up speed depending on where you're at in the tape. So there has to be some slippage here, just not too much. That's kind of where these Aiwa decks fall down. It's that fine line between, you know, enough grab and not enough grab. There is another one in here that is pretty beastly to get to. It's this one right here, and this one swings from one to the other depending on which direction you're going. So that one, what fun. To be honest with you, I'm not sure how to get to that one and get a better access to it than this, so I just go at them, and I probably use a fairly dry amount of not a whole lot of regrip on the tip. I don't want to just get this stuff everywhere in here because I'm kind of coming at it at an oblique angle. If I can do it correctly, there we go. I can actually apply it with the Q-tip by spinning the Q-tip, which actually causes the thing to turn in advance, but it doesn't want to do that for me. But there it goes. Yeah. So I can actually apply it all the way around the wheel just by getting the wheel to spin when I. Yeah. There we go. This one's hard to clean, man. It's really hard. Actually, here, let's try this. Let's snap the head off the Q-tip. And just put some regrip directly on the paper stock of the Q-tip and apply it like that. There we go. And now I can actually, as you see, I'm turning it around. So as I'm turning it around, I'm applying the regrip all the way around that rubber wheel. Of course, I'm kind of transferring some to this as well, so I'll have to clean that off. Although this stuff will just soak into the rubber if you leave it to sit. I mean, yeah. See? Got some of the black schmutz off the surface of that idler. Let's go in there with a dry Q-tip, see what happens. Feels fairly sturdy. I guess I'll go do a little up and down motion. I definitely don't want to break anything. There's 30-year-old little plastic parts in here, you know. So I really want to get this idler in good shape though before I put this thing back together, because man, there's nothing more disappointed than putting one of these stupid Aiwa decks back together and you play it and 30 minutes into the tape it starts slipping. You're just like, oh, I have to open it up again and redo it. Don't want that. Really want to get it right the first time, and as you can see, we're still getting the crap off there. All right, we'll call that done. So while we're here, we can clean the heads. These heads are immaculate. I'll do it just so I'll show you how I do it. I mean, I just use the 99% alcohol, you know, and this can be done with the deck assembled, but yeah, just clean it with